Hey everyone, I think we may as well just get started, and anyone who then comes to join does so. Can everybody hear me okay? We've got much reduced numbers. But just to say hello to Billy, who's joined us as well. Billy's taken over from Fatih on the Vimgo side of things. And Billy and I had a quick catch up yesterday, just so that Billy is aware of sort of kind of what's roughly been discussed so far, but more importantly has pointers to all the notes that we've made so far. I'm sure there's a million questions that come from those notes, but Billy, good to have you on board. And we'll come to have a sort of a bit of a Vimgo update throughout the call as we get going. So just to, that's moving on. I don't know whether it's actually worth just diving straight in to get a bit of an update from the VS Code, can I call it, trial with the Go module stuff, Rebecca and Ramya. I think Ramya, you're on the call. Any update from your side on how that's going?
No big news, I guess. No big news is good news. No major new issues reported apart from what we've already discussed. Numbers wise, there are almost, say, 900 people trying it out each day. Just to give you an idea about how many people are using modules. There are like about 900 people opening a project which uses modules in VS Code. Apart from that, no big thing. Once in a while we hear the issue of slowness, but that's it. No big updates.
That's a pretty good number. I don't know, Ian, is that's sort of helping to, from your perspective, that's obviously giving some exposure to the tools and Go packages at least?
Yeah, it's kind of higher than I thought it would be, but yeah, it's good. Just so you know, I have 6 people in the room with me, including Rebecca.
Fantastic. So Rebecca, if there's any update from your perspective on those sort of things, I guess that sort of blends into things like Go code and the fact that you've taken over the, you did a bit of gardening on the issues in Matthew Dembski's fork, I think, from the last time.
Hey everyone. Yes, I don't think I have had any like major issues on the fork that have that modules. I think that's been pretty quiet. I don't know if there's, I guess just like Ramya said, it's been quiet. I took over the Go code and tried to merge in every pull request that was outstanding and all the issues and stuff like that, clean it up a bit. So I think at this point it's pretty stable. So I'm hoping that until the LSP is ready, the Go code should be functional. Feel free to file issues and I'll take a look at them. But yeah, I've been getting a decent number of issues, but I think it's mostly stable.
Yeah, it sort of seems to be tidying up around the edges more than anything massive, definitely. So Ramya, there was only one other thing that you had, which was sort of best practice questions and how to use Go list, I think, was one thing from your last call. I don't know from the last call whether that's something you managed to close out.
No, unfortunately, I didn't get time to look into that yet.
No worries. That was just for interesting. GoDef, Ian, I don't think there's any major updates on that side. But Heshi, on the Go import side of things, I'm using that relatively successfully. Any updates that you wanted to share on that?
So Heshi isn't in the room, but I've been on top of the Go import stuff. It's horrifyingly slow, but apart from that, it's good. What we've been doing is, so I've been writing this new testing framework that I was using for GoDef, which found all sorts of things that were wrong with GoDef. But we're also using that to convert all of the old Go imports tests. So now all the Go imports tests are running in both module and Go path modes. And they're almost all passing at this point. So it seems pretty solid. But there's an issue that there's a particular use case with replace directives that isn't handled correctly that's causing issues in the tests that Heshi's looking at the moment.
Ian, is that testing stuff something that other people, you sort of envisage other people using as well? Is it generally useful, that sort of test framework?
We rolled out as a useful way of writing and tests for anything that deals with Go code. We're kind of looking hard at the design and seeing what's truly common and what isn't. And then, I've already written that. So we've already got GoDef and Go imports tests written in terms of it. And we're going to kind of see just how far we can push that to.
Fantastic. Thank you. So the other thing was, I think, Ramya switching to use Go Get Doc within VS Code, and I don't think we've got Zach or Joe on, but Billy, this is sort of one for you as well, I guess. Instead of godoc, is that a flip that was easy enough within Go VS Code, Ramya?
We didn't make the flip
Okay.
yet. It's just that people using Go Get Doc will get the feature by free. And if anybody logs an issue saying that, it's not working, I ask them to use Go Get Doc.
I see.
And then my status page on the repo also talks about the same.
Fine.
So
okay,
yeah,
so
the reason why I haven't switched to Go Get Doc for default is I've had people reporting in the past that it's slow. We never figured out the reason behind it, because Zach is like, they use that in Atom and it's just fine. It might be because the number of times VS Code calls it, we're not sure. So that's why I have been hesitant to make it the default. But I strongly encourage people to try it out. So.
Okay, so that is, as and when we flip over to that might help to uncover any speed issues that exist in underlying Go packages world, particularly in modules mode for Go Get Doc.
Yeah.
Billy, that might just be something we do, and I don't actually use it in Vim, but Go Doc is being Go no space doc. It is dying effectively in a command line mode, and Go Get Doc is very much its replacement. So, from Vim's perspective, I think the message is to switch over to that, particularly in modules mode.
Yeah, that should be too bad. We can change the default.
Fantastic. Okay.
So what's used in Vimgo? Sorry
So
for the
Vimgo allows people to choose which one they want to use. And right now it defaults to GoDoc, but people can choose to use Go Get Doc if they want already. So we can just change that. Say, oh yeah, if you're in module mode, we'll just change the default for you or something. Or maybe we just change it to be the default all the time.
Okay, got it.
Billy and I briefly talked yesterday about the sort of the gap that exists in Vim as well regarding context, where Visual Studio Code has this concept of a project. Vim doesn't have anything. We sort of, just so that everybody's aware, I guess that's something that Billy will be thinking about in the background, / and others, to just try and work out how we plug that gap. Because that clearly is relevant as far as all of the modules aware tools are concerned. Ramya, one other tool that you said sort of is needed next in VS Code was GoType. And Ian, I think you mentioned that was something that sort of is next on the horizon from your perspective, therefore.
Yeah, I haven't really looked at it. I can't, it's on my list because it was in the list of tools that the editor's call, but I've never actually looked at its contents to see just how awkward it would be.
GoType was intended as a debugging tool for maintaining the type checker. I'm kind of surprised it's being used in production. Is it not something that could be done by another tool that's more appropriate, like Guru or LSP or something like that?
In the long run, yes, absolutely. But
So a thought on GoType, that was something just I brought up last time. I would be totally okay if Ian, your team, skips that tool and concentrate on the LSP. I'd be absolutely fine with that.
okay.
That's one off the list, one off the score. So, Billy, do we use that from Vimgo's perspective?
Do we use GoType?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
No. Not explicitly.
Okay.
Let's scratch that one off the list then.
That's nice. Let's try and strike a few more off. Cool. Okay. I think that's it from the VS Code / Atom and the major tools perspective, unless we don't have anybody from the Atom side. Billy, is there anything you wanted to mention from the Vim perspective?
I don't think we merged the change for Go Code to be able to use Go Mod this past weekend, and I'm thinking about how to deal with context. I have some ideas about how we might be able to deal with that. I want to make sure that we write tests and to handle everything correctly. Vim is Vim's different than other editors because it's not intended to be an IDE, but there are concepts in Vim that we might be able to leverage. So I'm going to play around some things. It'll probably be a little while before I get that done because I want to make sure I kind of carefully consider the right way to do things with Vim, but also how to give people the right user experience for Go.
Fantastic. I was just trying to think if there's anything else. Yeah, we just sort of briefly talked about LSP yesterday as well, and just sort of thinking slightly more in the medium to long term, what we actually do from Vim's perspective there, but that's not so much in the medium term, not so much in the immediate term, excuse me. Quickly shifting on to Go packages then. Michael, I see we released the Go packages. Any other updates on Go packages that's want to share?
Away in Japan this week, but
Oh, very good.
going on. Yeah. So Go packages is kind of out of beta and into usable mode. The biggest thing that's likely to change now is just speed is the one that we're worried about. Overlay in their support will improve over time. They're very minimal at the moment. But
so Russ, by the way, mentioned he thinks he knows how to make Go list an order of magnitude faster by caching a lot of the directory operations that it does. He plans to do that.
so that'll be nice.
Yeah. Brian, do you want to jump in at that point if there's anything on the Go list side?
I've been having a lot of trouble hearing, but I don't really have anything on the Go list side yet. Still, still working through various file locking issues, so I haven't had time to focus on performance yet.
Fine. Okay, no problems at all. But it sounds like, as was that Alan in the background there, sort of saying that there's okay, cool. Modules, boundaries, and X-tools. I don't think there's anything specific there, Brian, unless we just want to pull the trigger on actually making X-tools a single module.
Yeah, so I talked a bit with Russ about X-tools and the other X repos, and I think Brad Fitzpatrick suggested previously that that sort of the X repos should be versioned alongside the Go releases and possibly even distributed alongside the Go releases. None of us is quite certain how that would work. So, so I think Russ is a little bit hesitant to start adding module definitions without also having some idea of how we should do the tagging that goes alongside those modules. And how we do that tagging kind of plays in with how we distribute the X repos, and there's kind of this whole nest of questions.
Because Hannah was also working on a document, to call it that, I think, about how this should be structured. If there's anything on that, any update on that side of things, Ian?
I mean, Hannah's in the room, but she wrote a large document with a lot of suggestions, comments, problems, and things we should discuss. And essentially, at this point, it's down to we need to find enough of Russ's time to really talk it through and decide what we should do before we do anything.
Okay. So we're in a bit of a holding pattern on that side of things, which is, but I'm not sort of raising the point for any specific reason other than it's just, I guess, interesting from, as we said last time, any observer's perspective, looking towards X-tools as an example of how to migrate a large, complex repository like this.
The conclusion we kind of came to on this front is that X-tools is not an example of anything. It started in a weird place. It's got a lot of very unusual constraints, and it's never going to be a good example of how you should do a large repository. So kind of backed away from using it as an exemplar, and we're just now in the point of what's the best way for
damage limitation.
One idea that we seem to all agree on.
Sorry, Alan, it's a bit quiet. It's a bit tough to hear you, Alan. I don't know whether you can move a tiny bit closer. Thank you.
We've been through various rounds of dealing on this, but one idea that seemed quite popular was to move all of the command packages, the tools, into their own modules, and then they can all be versioned independently. And then the rest of tools would stay libraries and be one module itself. But there's a lot of transition and breaking changes to get to that point, so none of us is eager to do it right now.
That sounds, yeah, I certainly wouldn't be volunteering for that. Thanks very much. So anything, sorry, I may need to switch back to Alan here because the next thing I've got is Go analysis. Any particular updates on that side of things? Daniel Marty apologizes for not having converted any of his tools to use it yet, so it doesn't have any specific feedback yet, but anything from your side?
Sure. So you've probably seen there's a whole slew of changes that are basically just laboriously breaking up Vet into a set of independent plugins. And then right now I'm still in the last stages of trying to make it so that the tool can run in one of two modes. It can be run either sort of on the command line, in which case it invokes Go packages, which invokes your build system. So you can think of it as analysis top builds underneath. But it can also be run in a mode in which GoVet, the build system, would invoke the tool to say, just run this specific package. Don't try to figure out the structure of the project. Just run this package. And so that in that case, you have the build system on top. And this this will allow a single binary, any kind of vet tool anyone wants to produce, to run in both of these two modes, and it'll also work with other build systems as well. So I hope to have a change out this week for that last part. At which point, I plan to vendor all of this stuff into the standard tree, which is kind of a nuisance because it's a lot of code. I'm trying to slim the dependencies down to just what's needed. But basically, it's going to be vendored, copied this in Go root indefinitely.
Fantastic. I know that Monzo in London do quite a lot of static analysis, and they have an approach kind of similar. I'm hearing this secondhand to the approach that you've taken with Go analysis. So I'm going to try and find out if there's someone in the Monzo team who can actually just confirm, well, not confirm, but sort of get on board with the Go analysis stuff, and whether there's something that we can get out off the back of that as well.
Yeah, find me a point of contact to talk to. I'd love to speak.
Yeah, surely. It was just literally on a coffee that I had before this call, so it's on my list of things to do. Thanks very much, Alan. I guess the next thing is the LSP. Rebecca, anything specific on the LSP side of things?
Nothing specific, just I'm going to continue working on it now, like especially since I've kind of figured everything out with Go code. It'll basically just be, I don't know when we'll like release anything, but yeah.
Okay, cool. Everybody's eager to try it as soon as you can give them something even bleeding edge, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll definitely make an announcement when we're ready to like release.
Fantastic.
Basic or whatever.
Thank you very much. I think that's pretty much it. So we'll keep it short and sweet unless there's anything else that anybody wants to bring up. We have a drastically fewer people on the call than the first time we had this call. So whether this continues to be the most efficient format from everybody's time perspective, Ian, whether you have any thoughts on that or anybody else, we can maybe just sort of make it into an update call. Maybe it just serves as a useful point of contact in any case. We'll make it slightly less frequent. I don't know.
I think it's good to keep it going. I think the other thing that would be interesting is to see how many people read your notes. You might find that quite a few people aren't attending because they can read the notes instead, and people still find it very valuable.
Yeah. There's on that front, there's been a frightening number of people who have actually just said, oh, yes, I was reading your notes and it's been interesting to see X, Y, and Z. And that's how the Monzo conversation came up earlier.
A few people talk to me about things that were in your notes. So
okay. What?
I just want to say, Paul, thank you so much for setting this up. It's something I've been meaning to do for years and I've never gotten around to doing. And I'm really glad you've done this. I think it's between us and our users.
Well, it's kind of you to say that, Alan, but I think you actually have to thank Ian for bullying me into just organising an initial session at GopherCon, where it just so happened that there was the right people there at the time, and the most efficient thing was just to pull everybody into a room. So hopefully we keep it going, and if we can spark off conversations like getting the Monzo folks, if there's something there, whether Dominic's able to give a bit of feedback from his perspective on the static analysis side of things, just making it more of a sort of a single community thing, as opposed to, I think, what has been a bit of a non-Google thing in the past, which I just don't understand, to be honest. So yeah, I'm very happy to keep doing these sessions because it's honestly not that much overhead from my perspective now.
Thank you.
Paul, I didn't know you were bullied into this. I thought you did this out of the goodness of your heart.
Sorry, yeah, that was a strong word, wasn't it? Sorry, Ian.
Calling you a bully.
I think it was have my arm twisted. I'll put it that way. Then. No, I willingly volunteered and have regretted it. No, I haven't regretted it. Good. Is anything else that anybody wants to throw out today? Otherwise, we'll keep it nice and short today.
I've got nothing else.
Good to meet you.
Nothing from my side. Mostly I'll have something for next time. I'll take a look at the whole goal list thing. And then Marwan, last time after we had this call, Marwan and I chatted and we talked about vendoring, using vendoring when using modules.
Yes.
So I haven't tested out that scenario in VS Code yet. I'll do some exploration and I'll share the results next time.
Fantastic. And I'm just rather selfishly working on something called Go Bin, which is like a Go hack type experiment for globally installing and locally installing main packages to understand what that might look like in the sort of as an interim, with whether anything happens in Go 1.12 or not. So I'll publish something to golang-tools on that as well in the next few days. Cool. Thanks very much, everybody, and speak to you in a couple of weeks.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, everybody.